Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in all the way from New York City, we have Rïa Mehta. How you doing today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. What's the weather like out there?
It's actually like 80 something and sunny for a change, so no complaints.
As
It's
opposed to
weather
what
for
for
August.
NYC weather?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's actually right now it's 83 and sunny here in Seattle. It's all those rumors that say it always rains here. Oh, sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But no, it's awesome. I'm planning to come out there here, coming out there in October. I'm super excited to be back in the big city again. I'm gonna have some fun while we're there, and I know, but you're gonna be at ADE when we come. Probably, I think. I'm not sure. I've been to ADE twice. It's a phenomenal experience. Went in 2022 and 2023. I can't explain it to. I try to preach it whenever I can to somebody who has never been, never gone. If they're serious about being in the industry, why is it so important for you to go to ADE? What do you look forward to doing when you go to something like that?
Yeah, I'm not a good networker, if you will, and I feel like ADE is a lot of really just artists, but also like label people, and it's everybody's just there to meet one another. There's no pressure to kind of be somebody. You just, you go as yourself, and you will find artists of all levels attending. So the first time I went, I made so many new friends, and to be very honest, I made a lot of new girlfriends, and actually that's kind of what kept me going, because I don't actually know that many women artists or women identifying artists, and AD was the first time I really got to um, kind of hang out with really cool people and feel like I was part of the crew.
That is the when I went, it was my first time traveling to Europe. It was my first time traveling abroad like that. And first time ever going to a major event like that as well. I mean, I went to Winter Music Conference in 2009. That was crazy. But nothing could really experience, nothing could set the standard for something like ADE. And if I had to go between the two, I'd choose ADE. But, that was back when Ultra and Winter Music Conference were kind of getting along, and it was all one big thing,
Yeah.
And then when they separated it off, it was kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but ADE, yeah, you're right. There is a very laissez-faire attitude. It's such a beautiful city, too, very easy to get around. The second time I went there, I felt kind of like, oh, I know where to go. Oh, I know what to expect. I know to watch out for the bicyclists.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of cold at the end of October.
Yeah.
But it's still worth going, especially coming from New York. It feels like, okay, I'm in the same climate. And yeah, it's just, you get people from all over the world are there. So, for me, it's a really cool experience.
I still carry my ADE umbrella with me that I got in 2022 in my backpack as an emergency umbrella, and I had to use it last year at Rave the Planet in Berlin when I was there, because at the end of the event this torrential downpour came, and I was kind of coming off the Riverside Studios float, the truck there, because I was up there streaming live and everything with them, and luckily I had this umbrella with me, and I ended up curling up underneath a tree and like sitting there for like a minute because it was just so crazy. But
yeah, they have a lot of rain in Amsterdam, so they're used to all of that stuff.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't expect, it was such a beautiful day, I didn't expect it to come down, and when I had this umbrellas that year, I was like, okay, what to expect? But no, it was always beautiful weather at 80. Always a great time. Like you said, you get to network, you work the circuit. Unfortunately, I'm always doing interviews during the whole time, so I suck. But one time we had a really great place, and kind of where the Rodeo Drive is of Amsterdam. Last year or the year before or after that, we got a houseboat.
Oh, nice.
It's a huge houseboat. Can't talk about what happened at the houseboat, but it's all fun stuff. No, and it's just nice to be there. Beautiful city. I only got to go to one conference there, and amazing. Interesting enough, it was one with Carl Cox.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got in last minute on press badge. It was like a room full of 200 people maybe, and we were waiting in the press line for like 45 minutes to an hour, and they weren't going to let press in. And then they said, okay. And luckily we were like 10th in line for press.
Nice.
And we got into the show, and Carl was doing this whole Q&A thing, pretty big show thing. And he was talking about how he's reinventing himself now, doing his kind of organic sets, where he does everything off a laptop and then has a CDJ next to him. But he's like, you'll never hear the same show from me twice ever again.
Yeah, that's what makes him so unique for sure.
And yeah, he's like, and even he was joking about himself by saying, "Oh yeah, here's Carl reinventing himself again." You know? Yeah. But it was just really awesome, being there and who you can meet and what you can do. In Amsterdam is wonderful as well. But you just spent 2 years in working on a project, and I love the title of this project, and I'll tell you why in a few moments. But 2 years in the making, your debut album, Metamorphosis. Tell our DJ Sessions fans all about that. What went into that?
Yeah, I think when I started working on it, I don't think I had an album in mind, but I had started with, the first track I made actually was All of Me. Then I made I Want You, and they're so different. So I kept going. I think my struggle was finding a place for the music, and when you do get replies, from labels, many times they'll ask you to change the music to fit their label, which is totally fair. But that was something I didn't want to do, and I was pretty sure that I wanted to stick with my sound. So I made the difficult decision to not change it after, going back and forth, with my friends and fellow DJs and producers. And I kind of stuck with my guns. And once I had I think I had like 5 or 6 tracks. I could have broken them up into 2 EPs at that point because if you hear the album, like the middle of the album is kind of dark, melodic techno-ish. It kind of goes together, and then the bottom half of the album is it's almost like, I don't know, it doesn't really fit into any genre, so that could be its own EP. But I liked the idea of kind of telling my story and my kind of depth and breadth of what I can do in one narrative. So when I had about 7 tracks, I'm like, I think I'm gonna make 2 more, and I wanna make this a whole cohesive story. And so, it's probably been now that it's done and it's out in the world, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know if I want to work on anything less than an album anymore, because it's really truly, as an artist, it's your soul in a way, and an EP kind of, or even singles, they just, for me personally, they're not feeling like they're going to be able to tell that story anymore. And so it's been 6 weeks since the album came out, and I'm kind of like, I'm on pause, to be very honest. I'm hoping when I go back to ADE and I'm at the next shows I'm playing, I'll kind of get some inspiration again. But for right now, I'm just taking it all in, and I haven't started anything new just yet.
No, I totally understand about taking a break, hiatus, working after doing this show for 16 years, and being in the industry for 35 years. I've had my burnout times as well, or pause times. I just recently came out of an 8.5-month hiatus where a lot of people were like, where did Darren go? What happened to the DJ sessions? He's not posting every day about something that's new and exciting over there. We're going on a trip, and I just kind of had to regroup, replan, re-strategize, get everything back in order again, and get that wind back underneath my sails. I've seen the results in multiple different areas where that happens, and you're right, you can have a little bit of burnout, or you're like, okay, what's next?
And everybody keeps asking me, like, what are you going to do next? And honestly, I want to say another album, but I don't know if I have 2 more years. It feels like so long, at least in the beginning. It feels like, oh, that's so long. But when you're in it, when I was in it, at least, I never felt like this was such a long period, because I was like, the next track. At one point I had 3 tracks going at the same time. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to do like a remix or something that's not, related to anything. So I've been very fortunate. I have really great female artists that I can look up to. There's this network called like Change the Beat. It's like kind of spearheaded by Sydney Blue, who has been in the industry for like a couple decades now. And then there's there's so many smaller initiatives now, and I'm so like proud to just know all these like amazing women. And so a lot of this kind of like this push of like stay true to your sound also came from these people, because they didn't tell me to change what I was making. It was kind of like stick to what you want to do and be true to who you are, and I
Mhm.
really appreciate that.
You know, I was just talking with one of our resident DJs the other day who's now dabbling into music production, and that's one of the kind of echo chambers I hear a lot from producers in the industry is, don't go out there and try to make a sound and sound like somebody else. Find something you like and stick with that, and then find yourself into those circles around that genre. But, don't go out and make a song and go, oh, I want it to be house, trance, drum and bass, and dubstep, and I'm trying to mix all these elements into one song and make it, that's my music. That's what it's like, oh, hey, that's cool. Not anyone that wants to do it, but even me being a fan of the all-you-can-eat buffet, I still keep my food separated on the plate.
Yeah,
I'm a Virgo. I'm like precise, like that. Like
it's all a science.
You couldn't mix the foods. Don't mix the carrots and peas with the mashed potatoes. Now I'll mix them all and put the gravy over top and eat it with the chicken, dip it in.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, you just have to have your perspective and get in your groove and your genre of what you want to like, and again, not to experience that burnout. What I found was interesting, though, is your title, your debut album, Metamorphosis. My first short film I ever filmed in college, the title was Metamorphosis.
Nice.
And I was really proud of it because the teacher had said at the time, I'd never really filmed a short film before. It was only about 10 and a half minutes long. But, the challenge was there because the instructor had said, he showed us this movie called Russian Ark. I don't know if you've ever heard about it or not.
No.
It's a really beautiful piece, and it's all one continuous shot. And I mean, there's no tricks. They have documented the background of it. It's like a huge continuous shot of this like Russian mansion. They go through and there's all this choreographing going on with dancers and movements and everything. It's all one take. He shows us this in the class and he says, oh, I don't recommend any of you go out and try to do a continuous shot for your first project or for this class. He didn't even want us to film a project. He wanted us to do something really short, simple, sweet.
Yeah.
But here I come with this television background, public access. So I'm like, and I've been playing with a camera since I was 6 years old. I'm like, I'm going to make a continuous shot, though.
Yeah. It's called a mise en scène, isn't it? Or something like that.
What's that?
It's called a mise en scène. It's
probably if I went to film school, I'd know that term. But I didn't go to film school. I went to school for business.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I wanted to learn how to edit with Final Cut Pro, so I took a Final Cut Pro class in college.
Gotcha.
First semester in college, I took Final Cut Pro.
Gotcha.
And along with accounting. I'm the accountant that knows how to make film. But basically, I used 2 tracks that I really love by DJ Shadow that really fit the whole narrative of the film really awesomely. And it was a cool project. So, we kind of share that. Metamorphosis is your first debut album, and my first film is Metamorphosis. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, if it hadn't been for Metamorphosis was actually one of the last tracks I worked on, if I'm looking at the whole body of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard this artist, her name is Galia, she's based in Europe, and I had heard her her voice on some of Colorize, the label's music, and I was just blown away. She was so talented, and so I dared to DM her on Instagram and be like, hey, I know you're a Colorize, like a vocalist, but if you're ever open to working with kind of non-colorized music artists, like let me know. And she was so sweet. She was like, oh hell yeah, let's do this. What's really interesting is at that point, I had made about 5 tracks, and they were very dance floor heavy, not as vocal heavy. I told her I really want one track that that really translates like the whole album for me, which is like I'm at this place in my life where I've kind of put in all the work, and the thing with me, and I say this to everybody who meets me, is that I'm kind of a jack of all trades. Similar to you, I've also been to business school, but I also went to film school. I went to hair and makeup school. I've basically done like the entire gamut of like schools at this point. And the reason that I've stuck around with music is because I just feel like there's so much to learn all the time, and that's what keeps me in it. But when you listen to the whole body of work, it's a constantly changing feeling, in my opinion, when you go from track to track. Like there is subtle change. Like you start like dreamy, then you're going into progressive house, and you're going into like melodic techno, then into indie dance, then into these like multi-genre tracks. And that whole journey to me is like an embodiment of who I am as a person, because even I never can kind of stay in one place and need to, keep moving. So I kind of told her that. And I told her, like, I'm going to give you full leeway or leverage to write the lyrics as you want, but here's where I am so far. And I feel like, this is a change for me, but I'm committing to this ever-changing version of myself. And those were the vocals she wrote, and it just blew my mind, because she just hit the nail on the head. It's the vocals talk about making peace with your past, and kind of just, yeah, it's just like ever changing, like life situation.
Absolutely. No, and that's, I think I just love that term, metamorphosis, of how you just basically beautifully explained that. And, and then it was like, kind of like the core theme of my film was, metamorphosis and changing and growing and adapting and, to the situation. That's basically what my short film is. I won't go about what it's all about. I wanted to make a comic book series off of it one day, but oh yeah, we were gonna go down. I mean, it was pretty cool. Won a small film award for it back in the day, local film award, nothing huge, but it was just really fun. Now you mentioned that you are a jack of all trades, and like kind of like recognize business school, film school, hair and makeup school. I was gonna say, are you trying to run your own production studio or something over there and know all aspects of it? But you mentioned music was one of the biggest things that you stuck with, and I always love it when people nobody gets the questions before I don't send questions out before I interview, so they don't know what's coming up. But you almost led right into my next question, was what was or is your strongest motivation to pursue a career in music? After all of that, like, you could have gone business, hair and makeup, film school, music.
I started, it's going to be a crazy story to hear.
That's okay.
But I started as while I was in film school, I started making this Spotify playlist of music that I would use in a movie if I was making one. And I got really into that playlist, but I kept it on private. But at the same time, I was going to all these amazing parties in New York, getting really influenced by the underground scene. And so I started this chill house playlist on my Spotify. This was like 2017, 2018. And I had no interest in getting into music at the time, but I wasn't even DJing yet, to be honest. But people started reaching out to me on Spotify. And that time, Spotify used to have a DM feature, via Spotify and Instagram DMs. If I was a DJ, they wanted to follow me as an artist. And I was like, I'm not a DJ. Like, why are you asking me this question? But after more than a few did, and then this friend of a friend who I respect his taste in music, he also said the same thing a couple of times, like, yo, you should be a DJ. I was like, okay. So come 2019, I buy myself this little DJ 400, and I say to myself, very realistically, if I can make use of this $200 controller, then will I think about this seriously, because it might be too complicated. I might not like it. It could happen. I started putting out some guest mixes on my SoundCloud, like nothing fancy. That controller is like super hard to use. I've seen the phone in a while, but it's tiny. It's like that size. And people started saying, like, "Hey, this is cool." Like, one of our friends used to throw these, kind of Rapture collective parties here. They were like, "You want to play for us?" And I was like, "Yeah." So it was like 30 people at the time, and I was like, "I'll play." But the first show I played the first time I played for people, outside of those guest mixes, is the moment I knew I wanted to play my own music. And that was crazy to my friends at the time, because the first time I played, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to play my own music someday. And they were like, you just started DJing. Like, this is not, something that you want to pursue. And in retrospect, if somebody had told me, how much work, like, I love being a DJ and I love playing, but it is ultimately buttons, and everything is, it's like you have to take a USB to a show now. Like, it's so much easier. But music production is like an entirely different field. There's this engineering aspect for like mixing and all of that stuff that nobody talks about, how complicated that is. On the other end, I don't have a music theory background. So how do you pick the melodies that have to work together? All of that's a completely different science. And then obviously you have to be brutally honest. Like, does this actually sound good, or am I just, crazy, or am I being partial because it's my music, So if somebody told me it was going to be all of those different aspects, I probably would have gotten intimidated and not gotten into it. But believe you me, COVID happened. And come March of 2020, I've already been, kind of homebound for about 3 weeks at this point. And I am bored out of my mind. Netflix hadn't really started with all these like shows yet. So I'm messing around on my computer and I opened GarageBand, which is for kids. And
Hey.
I'm gonna see what happens. But at three nights, I basically stayed up like 4 or 5 hours each night, and I made 3 different tracks. I sent them to a bunch of friends. They were like, "This is mixed terribly, but you need to learn Ableton because this is not bad for like a free, DAW."
Yeah.
And the rest is history. Like I got into it, and I think, like I said before, I'm super passionate about like learning. And every year I try to like learn something new. So that in itself has kept me like kind of interested in music, because no matter how good I think I am today, I know I can always be better tomorrow. So I'll take a class, I'll take a YouTube tutorial. I'm constantly like learning these new things that I would never like didn't know before, and that's what keeps me in it. Like, it really does.
And if you could describe your music in 3 words, what would you call it?
3 words. I would say dance floor. I would say ethnic, because it doesn't sound completely Indian or like Middle Eastern, but it has like a little bit of each. And well, if ethnic or global, you could go with either one of those. And dance floor. And I would say like bassy is almost like the third word I would use, because I love a good track with a good bass. Like a good solid low end, just to keep the dance floor going. Even in my like softer music, I like a good bass line. So I'm just really addicted to that.
And do you master all your tracks yourself, or you send them out for mastering?
No. When I first started sending out tracks to labels, I would, SoundCloud has this automatic mastering one. There's a bunch of other websites. I would just do a quick master on that, and before sending it out, just because you don't want it to sound awful. But honestly, I stopped doing that too. Maybe like 2 years ago. Once I knew that my mixing had gotten to a place where I was comfortable and it wasn't going to sound terrible, I just ran a quick home master myself. But most labels that I've worked with in the past want to use their own mastering engineers, so I don't end up mastering it myself.
That's good to know. That's a piece of advice. I don't produce music, so I would never know that, but that's a good piece of advice for people to understand and know out there. Yeah. And definitely, like, I was just in a conversation with somebody that's new producing music, and they sent me a track and said, "Listen to this." And I'm like, all right, cool. I know it's his 3rd track that he's ever made using Ableton. I get it. But he shared it into an open forum, and one of the first things that a producer came in and said is, have you, before he even listens to it, he goes, "Have you mastered this yet?"
Yeah.
Like, you could tell, obviously, he knows the textbook, like, here's what you do to make a song. But, I actually had a conversation that maybe you should like look at some official courses. He's doing the YouTube video route, but like when I worked for Apple, I was a certified trainer. I worked my way up the corporate ladder, worked my way up the ranks to be one of 300 people in the world. But then I was also certified to train trainers in their high-end software.
Right.
Not to become director editors, not to become musicians, to use the software, know. Exactly. And I said, maybe you should buy a book to start there to understand the basics. GarageBand is pretty, like you said, intuitive.
It's a good like starter. If you can't figure out GarageBand, I would strongly advise not to get into production.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really like I would say like the entryway for music production.
Exactly. No, it's a great little tool. I mean, back when I was working for Apple, I believe Trent Reznor had released a pack, like a remix pack, and he put it out there for free. That was all the GarageBand things for his song that you could do in GarageBand. It never caught on as like something that other musicians did. It was really cool though. You could get that, and then he had a remix competition. Kind of like before Stems came out. and somebody would send the stems and say, "Here you go, boom." He was doing it with GarageBand and sending, "Here's all the stuff, and go make your own songs using GarageBand." I thought that was a really cool project. Trent Reznor,
Yeah, exactly.
like, wow, okay, cool. So you're right. Getting started with something like that, and that's the dabble, and that's what I tell people when training at Apple. They'd go and they want to buy Final Cut Pro, or they'd want to buy Logic, and it's like, whoa! Just because you heard this artist uses it, doesn't mean going and getting it or spending $5,000 on a computer. Let's start you out here. And a lot of customers would come back. I was really top in sales there. They come back and go, "I'm so glad you didn't make me spend $2,500, $3,000, $5,000 on this. You got me a MacBook and you got me GarageBand." And I started playing with that. I had my one camera and I started playing with iMovie, and that's all I really needed to get this in and make
what you need.
And I was the rest is history. But yeah, definitely starting somewhere. I'm glad you had that experience with using GarageBand and found out you loved it. I don't work for the company anymore.
Because of COVID, we couldn't really go anywhere or do anything. I think that had such a big part to play, because if I did have things to do, I'm a huge traveler, by the way.
I can kind of tell that from your Instagram.
I average, pre-COVID, I was averaging 7 to 9 new countries a year. Since COVID, it's been about 6 to 7. And I'm not targeting a number, but I like to travel. So had it not been for COVID, I actually may have never become a music producer because I would have been on my next trip. But life is, I guess, it's unpredictable. So I didn't know it was going to happen, but I'm so grateful that it did.
No, I'm actually definitely, I don't want to use the word envy. I feel it's a little too strong, but that's exactly the level I want to get to, is about 6 to 7, 9 trips. That'd be awesome. But I mean, I'd be on the road. But the cool thing is, because of the technology, the world we live in now, I can take my show on the road and do it anywhere in the world. One, with virtual interviews, but two, I can also be on the ground and doing the in-person interviews and setting those up, which is one of the reasons why I went to ADE and working with Martin Jensen over at Riverside Studios, going back to Germany, going to Mexico later this year down for Dreamfields and those kind of things to get out there into the bigger world of things. There's so much out there, and there's so much food. Oh my God, I love foodie. I'm a foodie, so I love trying the food from the real, on the streets in the area. Although we did find a really good barbecue joint in Amsterdam.
Interesting.
My friend who travels with me a lot, she's from Kentucky. I'm sorry, Kansas City. Sarah, I did not get that wrong. Sorry. From Kansas City. And she's like, everywhere we go, she goes, "I'm going to check this barbecue out. And if it's not up to standard, I'm dissing it." She goes, "This is the best barbecue I've had."
Wow.
It's in Amsterdam. And it's in this court. It's not too far from Melkweg, I think. Somewhere around that area. Anyways, if you're in the barbecue, check it out. And they had beers from these states there as well. Like beers, she's like, she works as a waitress, and she's like, "Well, you can't find this stuff in the States, let alone find it in Amsterdam."
Right.
It's crazy. Anyways, back to the music though. Do you ever sometimes get fed up with playing and making music? And what do you do to deal with that? What is your go-to mantra? Get back in the zone.
Yeah. I've never gotten sick of playing, I gotta be honest. Actually, DJing is probably the most fun part of the job for me. I genuinely, I love engaging with the audience I'm playing for, and I genuinely like traveling. So it kind of is like the best of both worlds for me. On the production side, I have gone through periods of not making music at all, and what I've found is, if I force it, I'm not going to love it anyway. So I actually allow myself to take the downtime. I am hard on myself. Don't get me wrong, as is probably everybody on who's watching this. But I tend to. So I make music entirely on my 14-inch MacBook Pro, and that means that I'm usually lounging on my couch. I think of something. I'll open Ableton up, and I'll quickly do write down the idea because I don't want to forget it. Mm-hmm. The last couple months since the album's been out, I haven't had any of those moments, and I have been thinking oh my God, am I never going to make music again? But the truth of it is, it's an ebb and flow situation. You have your periods of really, really good productivity. But to be very, very honest, I tend to burn myself out. And so the last couple months have been kind of like a breather for me. And I've been telling myself that every time I, start to spiral, like, oh, I should be releasing more music and this and that. I'm like, hold on, I did all of this amazing stuff. It's okay. So you got to recognize the patterns in your own behaviors, and give yourself, leeway. Obviously, if you, I do have friends who, make music but never release it. That's a very different problem. It's not really burnout. They either don't like the system or the rules or whatever. That's a completely different situation. But there's, I think, 10,000 tracks being released a day now publicly. And so
is it a day or is it an hour?
I honestly, I would not even be shocked if it was an hour.
Because I know that YouTube, I think it's 1 million videos an hour go up to YouTube.
That's totally believable. Yeah. The one thing I will say is when I first started, I was really into the idea of my friends liking my music. And it really, music is so subjective. Even within house and techno, you have like hard techno, then you have like bassy techno, then you have like minimal techno, and then basically there's like a bajillion genres. And so what I've gotten used to in the 5 years that I've been producing music is not everybody's going to like your music, including your friends, and that's okay. Do you like it is what's important. And so if you force it, in my opinion, I at least when I'm forcing it, I'm not creating stuff I love. I'm like, this sucks anyway. What's the point? But I tend to not finish the idea. If I really do hate it that much, I won't invest that much of myself. But there have been times where I really believed in a track and it was just an okay track too. That does happen. So a lot of people are like, why don't you change your artist name and start over with this new sound? And I'm like, you know what? Everybody starts somewhere. I'm okay with having my history out there and like knowing that, let people see my journey, how much I've grown, and kind of where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had somebody once tell me that after years of doing my brand, they suggested, why don't you change the name of your brand and rebrand yourself and come out as something different and new? And this is literally early 2019, 2020. I think 2019. And I had at that point 10 years under my belt as the DJ sessions, and I'm like, granted, I was nowhere near where I would say that I'm at, and I still have so much further to go with what I want to do. I mean, some people think, oh, you're at the top. You're like here. I'm like, that was the marathon. I'm ready to run to the next galaxy. That's where I'm trying to get to. And that was just around the block.
The longest marathon ever.
Yeah. It's like, no. And they're like, how did you get so far? It's like, they wanted me to rebrand everything. I go, no, there was no reason for me to. And funny thing is that person's non-existent in the industry anymore.
Yeah.
So you're giving me advice on something you've never done before, telling me to do something, knowing that I'm going to have to start all from scratch, build, and everyone's going to, it's like, oh, I'm going to be like the artist formerly known as Prince. Oh, yeah, he used to do this show called the DJ Sessions. Now he does a show called the Sessions of the DJ.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to reinvent this. Like you say, you go through trials and tribulations. Some things work, some things don't. You catch the wave, you ride the wave.
Yep.
And that's what happens in the industry. I don't know, could anyone keep riding a wave forever, and be like, do they ever come up for air? You have to.
Here's the thing, you got to remember that social media is just a front. Even the people that look like they're riding the wave all the time aren't riding the wave all the time. And I think that's something that, especially myself, who's not releasing music, as friends who are releasing music every 6 to 8 weeks, I don't know what else they have going on in their life. What I'm seeing is their social media posts about their next track coming out, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't done so much. And it can be hard because you're kind of siloed in your social media world, and you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So my advice is to take that with a pinch of salt. Do your best. That's the truth of it. And that's kind of what my mantra is. Just give it my all, so that if it works out tomorrow, I'll be really happy. But if it doesn't, I can easily turn around and say I did my best. And that's what my best was. I cannot do anymore.
And that is the one thing you mentioned about social media, about take it with a grain of salt. Unfortunately, a lot of newer artists are getting booked I guess it's not unfortunate. They're talented, but they're getting booked solely on their social media numbers alone.
Yeah.
And their things a lot. And it's like, wait a second, you have producers that have been making phenomenal DJs, have been doing this for 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the balance that I saw. It was a graph I saw a few years back. It was like 20% of was your PR and marketing, and 80% was making the music. Now it's 80% social media and all that shit, and 20% making the music.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, how does that dynamic shift affect the scene as a whole? I'm not going on an attack. I'm not saying anything bad here. The one thing I don't understand is why are these DJs now playing these major festivals and they're not wearing headsets?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been a growing trend. I want to say like I've seen it in the last 5 years, maybe, especially when you're looking at these like main stage DJ sets.
I mean, we know why. We know why they're doing it. The public should know why they're doing it. But I mean, I don't get it. But yeah.
I think it's, today it's all about your brand. Who are you as a DJ? And when you're on that Tomorrowland stage, which by the way is my, end all be all goal.
Mine's backstage, but yours is on the stage.
Yeah, I'll take the bathroom stage if they have one. I genuinely that's my dream festival to play, and so I feel like it's a lot about your image, and I personally I can't even play it cool when I'm playing for like 50 people. I like to be happy and excited. Sometimes I'm wearing my headphones, sometimes I'm not. It's not really a conscious effort either way. If I know the tracks really well, especially if I'm playing back-to-back weekends, sometimes I won't need to wear my headphones because I've just played, a similar set. So I know the music really well. Bigger DJs, it's hard for me to like really know what their goal is, but just based on my own experience, I know how big branding has become as an exercise now. And so it's cooler to have your videos and pictures without your headphones on, I suppose, than otherwise. Obviously, it's probably pre-recorded as well, which is a whole different topic.
Well, I don't have to worry about the hair thing, So I guess I'm cool about that. Cool. I don't have to worry about messing up my hair or my image.
Yeah.
I'm not a DJ. A lot of people always think that I'm a DJ because I do a show called the DJ Sessions, but no, I'm like, I'm not a DJ. I just play one on TV. Inside joke, but no, I get it. I know why they do that, but it's just kind of like now with the advent of AI coming in, now with the advent, you had a whole round of, it's like, it's not a band, it's a DJ, and with a band you have to play an instrument or be a vocalist. You have to be able to sing. I mean, somewhat sing, I guess. You have to be talented. And with the DJ market, as a young kid looking at it going, oh, well, I can do that. I can get up on stage. I can jump and dance around and hit a button and, oh, wait, what is it? Whoa. They don't have to search for your music library for vinyl anymore.
Yeah.
Even producing tracks, you can ghost produce tracks.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
I mean, I've seen these
collaborate with people, so.
Generally, I've seen like these 6 or 7 year olds now on Instagram, killing it as DJs, and like they're better than like a lot of the adult DJs that I know, and I'm like, wow. So when people complain about how the scene is changing, I'm like, it's always been changing. It's just that before, the change would take a while to get known about because we didn't have social media. Now we see the trend like the next day, essentially, or even sometimes during it happening. And so we're just finding out about things a lot faster, but that doesn't mean that change wasn't happening before.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just like, when I know social media plays such a big part of it. The truth is, people want to know more about you. And so before, they had to buy a CD or a DVD or whatever, media type you were selling, and you would have your story on there, or you would have a photo shoot with pictures on there. But back then, digital cameras didn't exist either. And so computers didn't exist either. So it was all with its time. I think it's kind of played a similar role. It's just that now with Instagram and socials generally, it's kind of taken over the music thing. But if you really, really look, the ones that last are the ones that are doing more than the socials, right? They're the ones they're working behind the scenes to release the music, work on music.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you have a ton of DJs just coming in for the minute of fame, A lot of people buy followers now. It's all a facade till it's not, because it's probably really expensive to maintain that too, right? I mean, personally, I don't know, but I'm assuming that that's in the long run harder to maintain.
I've done the research. It is an upkeep. I've talked with people about it behind the scenes, the practice of that, and it's a very interesting thing. I mean, that was the whole thing. You go back to people buying Spotify plays.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. What's the end goal?
What's the end goal?
Ask yourself. You can present. You can do that a couple times. You can do it. If you're rich, you can probably do it a few more times. But eventually, if the music's not good, if the effort's not there, it does catch up. And you see those DJs that have been around for 25 years, they're still playing shows. Why? It's because they've put in the work, and I think that will even show even through the social media game eventually.
Talking about that kind of leads me to my next question, which is awesome, is what is the most important thing that record labels should be doing for their artists? And are they doing a good job with that? I mean, you're with Perspectives Digital. Darren's been around for a while. They just had their 15-year anniversary. I actually saw that he had moved over to mentioned earlier, the Riverside Studios there not too long ago. Beautiful location. I can't wait to get back over there. I said it wrong. I said Martin Jensen earlier. It's actually Martin Iyer. Okay. Sorry, Martin. But no, Martin Iyer, really good guy, really great team over there. I could literally get into that studio and just spend a weekend there talking to all the art. There's no way to conceive to people. I assume you've been to that studio before. Yeah,
been there. We're really awesome. Everybody's so down to earth.
Yeah,
like you're in the presence of all these like huge artists.
Yeah,
Berlin in general. Like, I went to this like nondescript house that was actually a club. In the middle of nowhere in like West Berlin. It's not even like in the East where all the like bigger clubs are. Uh-huh. And I walk in and this guy is playing an all vinyl set and I'm like, oh, cool. And I start dancing and suddenly I'm dancing next to these two ladies. One of them was Dixon's, manager for a while. The other one knows somebody at Berghain for guest list. And I'm like, okay, everybody in Berlin is there for the music. And it really, really shows because they're not competing with each other. They're promoting each other as artists, as friends, as labels, as whatever. And when you see the labels, to be very honest, they love their own, German friends first. So I gotta hand it to them. Like they're very focused on the music and what's right. Like you have clubs in Berlin that cover up your phone. You're not allowed to take it out. But then you also have clubs that don't. So, there's no like rule per se, but you can tell they're genuinely into the music versus, I would say, non-European stages, which are more about like, the facade and all of that. Yeah, no, I mean, you almost hit on 3 points there that I wanted to touch on very briefly. Is one, I basically, when I went there last year, it was in my mind started to inkling like, why don't I relocate to Berlin? It's so sensitive to everything I'd want to do European-wise anyway. Even though I just moved over there for 6 months and made Berlin my home base. And again, I will literally always, I will never forget the what's the word? Hospitality that I was shown when I was there when I went. And I was literally doing an interview with Martin in June of last year. And he said, come to Berlin for Rave the Planet. We'll get you on our float. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And I just bucket listed and went, boom. Yeah. I went by myself. I didn't have anyone that could just pick up last minute and go. Went over there. It was just phenomenal. And had an experience that I'd never done like anything like that in my life before. And I was this close to going to Ibiza right after for my 50th birthday. But I was like, oh, the flight home is going to kill me because it would have been like $2,800 for a ticket from Ibiza home. So oh, my God. No, I just didn't have time to plan it all. I could have planned it a little better. Long story short, but you're right. In Berlin, I went to clubs and they put the stickers over the phones. Yep. And not all clubs. Not all clubs, but that was something that just came up as a topic of conversation. The culture is now this on the floor. Yeah. And it's like, Apple had back in the day launched something. You can look at the stories years ago. They were going to make an infrared sensor in phones, and then stage performers, they could put and send a signal out. And when you put your camera towards this, it wouldn't let you record video. I think you might be able to take a picture, but it wouldn't activate your camera or your recording if that signal was going out. Yeah. You've heard of the nightclubs that have take your phone at the door or put it in the magnetic seal bag. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of
putting the stickers over the cameras. And yeah, if you're in there and you get caught using your phone, you're kicked out. Or make cell phone like they used to do for smoking. Make a cell phone area, and you go in that area. You can use your phone and text and do whatever you want. But we see you using that in public because back in the day, you know, you go to a concert and it says no recording devices, no cameras with fixed lens. I mean, cameras were cameras back then. You know, cameras. They didn't have 25 megapixel cameras with recording device to sit there and record a whole performance and then share them. I went and saw Lady Gaga a few days ago. And my friend went to the concert a few days before that, and he's posting pictures, videos of the concert, and I'm like, dude, you know?
Yeah, I also feel like the festivals themselves have had such a big part to play in that, because think back like 10 plus years ago when the phones had come out, but people weren't really taking those videos. We kind of had these really big festivals start taking these really cool videos of the show, and once they started doing that, everybody was like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this too. I personally don't complain about people being on their phones, because I'm like, it's everybody's own experience. If they want to be on their phone, that's their experience. Like, you can't control it. If you really look, especially places like Berlin, and even, to be honest, even New York, there is a trend of smaller parties happening with no phones, and people are genuinely there for the music, and they don't really care to film it anymore. So you will continuously have like the phone phenomenon. Probably tomorrow it'll become a VR related thing or augmented reality or whatever, but I like embrace the change. I'm like, it's their personal experience. What is your problem? Like, if you are that bothered by it, go stand on one corner of the stage, or like stand right in the front where you can't see anyone behind you. Like, but I personally, I don't get why it's being complained about, right? Like, because they're making, especially when DJs complain about it, I'm like, they're making you famous. So what's the problem here?
it is. You look at it from that standpoint. It is the free publicity. They're going to hashtag you. They're going to mention you. The nightclub or venue, a promoter gets a bonus out of it, and they get the chat going and break up. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I get it, but I come from a world where we didn't have that.
Yeah.
I started dancing in nightclubs when I was 15. I started going out to electronic music clubs when I was 18, and the DJ was up in a corner booth up here. You didn't see them really, and the dance floor was going. I mean, we were on the stage as the dancers, dancing out in front of the crowd and performing, and the DJ was up here just playing the music.
Just been, and
it was very.
I think there are still clubs like that, but like, they're fewer and far between, because most people now are okay with seeing the DJs. So I think it's become like a two-way street. But I think, to be very honest, like, if the culture were to shift back or become like half and half, I don't think there would be a problem on either side of that. Like, people who will want to not look at the DJ will go to the clubs and aren't, bringing them in, but people who want to see the DJs, and there are a lot of people that do want to see them because they feel like, oh, I'm relatable to this person because they look like me or they dress like me, and I like that,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'll go either way, but like, I genuinely feel like before we can stop complaining about the phone phenomenon, like, a new phenomenon is going to come in, and give it like a couple years, and then we'll be right back talking about this, like, a completely different thing that we have no control over. So yeah, embrace it.
Exactly. It's like I asked somebody in the interview the other day. I said, should DJs stop being looked at as rock stars and be more off to the side of the event? And he goes, I think we're way past that already. Yeah. It's not really gonna go back that, because I just saw a report come out the other day that electronic music has now surpassed rock music as the main genre on big shows. Worldwide. I don't know if those states are worldwide, but it's like, it is. It's and I can see that perspective, because I don't want to say rock music is typically a U.S. phenomenon in the sense of things, but electronic music transcends so much easier throughout the world,
It's also like everybody's making it now, I just feel now that this AI stuff is coming in next, electronic music will change even more, and then you got to be, with the times at that point. So one thing, we're going to be arguing about something else. So
let's just stay true to be true to the game. Keep going on. What would be, if you could give one production insight or tip to new producers out there, what would that be?
I think consistency is really undervalued and underplayed, to be honest. Um, Consistency can mean a lot of things. It depends on where you are in your journey as an artist. If you're an artist who's been doing this for 7 years, 10 years, you already know the fundamentals. Consistency is then, making the music and kind of putting it on a regular basis. If you're an artist who's just starting out, who's just learning music production, consistency is going into the production, into Ableton or whatever DAW you're using, and learning, because there's so much to learn. So my go-to is always, stay consistent. Even like if you look at my social media, people ask me how did I grow the following. I said, honestly, I have a rule of thumb. I post once a week. Not every week, but like 48 out of the 52 weeks of the year, I will post once a week. And it's because I want, to keep people engaged, but also because people can count on seeing one thing from me. And so sometimes it's twice. Don't get me wrong, when I have big shows coming up, when I have a big announcement. But even that in its way is consistency. And that consistency is what's helped keep my audience interested, kind of growing. I've also, you get all this advice from people like, don't do this and don't do that. But the truth of it is you can do whatever you want as long as you're authentic and real about it. So, for example, people told me, like, you should make a private Instagram. Don't put your travel stuff on there. I was actually, no, I think people kind of want to see me doing more stuff outside of music. Music is great. I love it. Obviously, I want people to be with me for the music. But I try not to post only about it. I want people to get to know me. And so that's my 2 cents.
You kind of touch base on the 80-20 rule, but of social media. But I really like the fact that you say consistency, because that's one fact that I give to a lot of podcasters that start up or live streamers that start up. They're like, what's the number one thing you can do? I said, well, okay, after you pick your topic for your show, you know what you want to do. You've researched, you find out who else is doing it. So, you're not entering a sea of 85,000 of the shows that are doing the exact same thing, which nowadays, because of COVID, or Pandy as like I like to call it, there are 80,000 versions of everyone's show out there. You're going to find something, but find your niche, make your content, refine your show. You don't have to spend that much money on gear. I mean, you can use your phone to start out with, your laptop camera to start out with.
Yeah.
Know your topics. Don't just do a who, what, why, where. But the main thing is be consistent. If you say you're going to launch an episode every week,
yes,
put something out every week. Don't put out, hey, I got backed up, too much work today, I'm going to put an episode out next week. Because the viewer attention ship will go, bye.
Exactly.
Your viewers need to know there's something consistently happening and going on. And I see a lot of producers out there, they'll try to, it's not my general practice of what I'd like to do, because from a producer standpoint, because I get a kick out of, I've done the pre-production to broadcast television. I've done, the production and edit and post submit to broadcast television. Same with the podcast series. I like this live aspect because it's what you see is what you get. This keeps me excited because I'm on my toes, not knowing what you're going to say next. And I got my questions and I research it, like, boom, oops. And I don't go back and edit my shows. Some people go back and edit and it has to be perfect and the audio wasn't right. And I'm like, oh, come on, people. If you're Joe Rogan or Gary Vaynerchuk, or those are kind of, I don't watch Joe Rogan, Gary Vaynerchuk, but you got a production team and a crew and all that money coming in, but just start out, but be consistent. Let your followers, let your viewers know every Thursday, every Wednesday, once a month. Well, once a month in the podcast was a little too long.
That might be too far apart.
With songs once every 1 or 2 months. That's generally the trend, is what I see. Once every, like you said, I think you said 6 to 8 weeks, you're putting something out.
Yeah.
But consistency, I think, is the biggest one that I would recommend as well. It's really great.
It's really underrated, to be honest. Like, most people don't even think about that as a thing, but it actually is a thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Whatever aspect you decide you want to be consistent in and do it well, eventually you got to play up on quality and all of that stuff, but all of that will come as long as you're consistent. So
I'll go right back to that. It's people they come and they're like, you have 2,600 past episodes, and I'm like, I was like, yeah, for 16 years, and it's like, and I'm getting ramped up to basically have 60 hours to 100 hours of content a month.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'm responsible for producing at least 30 plus hours of that myself.
Yeah.
But that consistency of everyone knows that I go live at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I go live at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. If they missed it, they can subscribe to our shows or go to our website. And we'll get all that information later on. I'm not going to plug myself during your interview because I'll do that at the end of the show. But what do you think the best business decision of your artist in favor of your artist career has been?
I think investing in learning has been a really big one. People will, I'm not saying drop like $2,000 on, a master class, because I love master classes, but I feel like they're very advanced. However, there is value in investing in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so my best business decisions have been, taking those boot camps and sessions that were a little bit more than I probably would have wanted to spend, but ended up getting so much more out of it because I learned a ton of new stuff that I wouldn't have known before. So probably that. Invest in the business. So if you are the business, then invest in yourself.
Exactly. And I think that's I explain this to a lot of people from time when you say investing. I think that's a really key point because when I looked at it I used to sum this up with people explaining to where the progression of making it to having broadcast television credits or putting a show on broadcast television back in the day, or even now podcasting, DJ, and music production, it applies to the whole base. But if you start out like everyone says, I want to do that. Okay. But then you invest in something and now you're one of a million people.
Yeah.
And then those people that spent, let's say, $5,000 puts them up another tier.
Exactly.
And they're in that tier. And then these people spend 10,000, tier up. Yeah. You keep tiering up.
Yeah.
Because soon, all of a sudden, you're looking back and you can say, "Oh yeah, I used to be down there." Not like you're looking down.
Well, it's not even just that, to be honest, Aaron. If you think about it from a very like business mind, you also got to recognize what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And that is the other part of investing. So if you invested, I don't know, $1,000, you tried your best, but actually at the end of the day, this is not working. Reinvest the next 1,000 into something that is working. So speaking in music production terms, I realized I can't make a good master. So I could pay all these websites to do it, which was also very not great as a master. Or I could find somebody who could do it for me. It's kind of a different investment strategy, but if it gets me to that big label, to that big audience, and if it's played out at a festival, like I want it to be the best master possible. I don't need to spend the time because I've tried it. Wasn't good at it. Let's reinvest it, somewhere that is actually going to pay its dividends.
Absolutely. I mean, I sat back the other day and I didn't really realize it. And people think I'm a one-man shop, one-person shop doing all this, but I have like 14 different people that do just whatever it is, different things. I have a PR guy out of the UK that I pay X amount of dollars for that gets me in with his Rolodex. There's some connections. I have a virtual assistant over here. I have a marketing person over here, but I'm just bits and pieces, but it all culminates together.
Yep.
It has an end of a budget at the end of the month. And then obviously my time to do all this. If I put it on paper, I'm still in the red big time, but it's like, I'm trying to build this as an international brand. You got to have all those moving parts. Otherwise, you just can't do it all yourself. Even though AI is coming in and help you out with some really cool things, it can't replace that networking call of saying, hey, I know so-and-so and I was at a party with him last night. He's totally willing to come down and do an interview on your show.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And build that confidence in my brand so that somebody will pay sponsorship dollars for it. I wanted to go back on this just because you mentioned your Instagram and how you keep it business and personal at the same time. And I guess I'd say, if anyone wanted to find out, what do you prefer doing when you are taking a break from all this music stuff? I guess you could say, go to my Instagram, you'll find out.
Yeah, that's accurate. I try to be good. I don't post every day, like even stories. I won't do that. I probably a couple times a week on stories, and then post with the reel, or post once a week. And I try to keep it, within the last few days. I'm not posting stuff from like a year ago most of the time. But I love to travel. I can't highlight that enough. And so my Instagram, if I had to be broken out into two parts, would be music and travel at a very high level. And then occasionally, I get to promote some shows and stuff like that, which I know falls into the music category, but music has the production side and then the DJing side. So in my mind, there are like three different categories really. So you have the DJing, like the shows, then you have the new music stuff, and then you have kind of the travel and the personal stuff that comes in the third bucket. But that's how I I guess I feng shui my Instagram like that.
If somebody were to write a biography about you, what do you think the title should be?
Ooh, that's a wait. Could it be as many words as I wanted it
Many
to?
words as you want. It's your biography.
Yeah. That's a tough one, and that's you putting me on the spot, huh?
I love
um,
this question.
you really do. I mean, you put me on the spot. Let me think about that. I would say a fusion of rhythms and modern soul. Kind of is what I would caption that.
Nice. I like that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
All
Well,
the time.
I've had a pleasure, great time talking with you. If there's anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go, what would that be? Anything we didn't touch on you want to reiterate, talk about?
No, you can always find me on Instagram. It's just Rïa Mehta, my name. If you want to look up my shows and past, I did start posting YouTube sets. I also made these really cool animated videos out of my artwork for my album. They're on my YouTube channel. You can find everything on riameta.comi.io.
Awesome. Right down there, the website,
Yes,
meta.comi.io.
that's
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We're definitely going to stay in touch with you and follow up with you. We try to do that once every 6 months, send an invite out. What do you got going on? What's happening? If you ever make it to Seattle, maybe have to come play our mobile studio sometime as well. Love to
yeah,
have you out here.
that would be awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Talk to
You're
you soon.
welcome.
Okay. Bye.
On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Take a picture with the QR code right there. Thedjsessions.com. You'll find all our socials. We have over 700 news stories a month that get published, live interviews, exclusive mixes. We have a new music section we just launched. We're going to have syndicated programming coming in from other artists and so much more. Our new clothing store will be there, everything and more at thedjsessions.com. I'm your host, Darren, and that's Rïa Mehta coming in from New York City. And don't forget, on the DJ Sessions, the music never stops.